Diego was born in Guatemala on the shores of Lake ATITLAN in August of 1998. His birth mother gave him up for adoption the day after he was born. The adoption agency assigned him to a foster mother in Guatemala City. My wife went to Guatemala in March of 1999 to get Diego and bring him home to the United States. But because of complications in the paperwork, she spent 9 months living with him in Guatemala. Because my wife Laurie spent 9 months in Guatemala waiting to bring Diego home, she got to know Diego's birth mother, Isabel, and Isabel's 2 children that she hadn't given up for adoption, Julia and Juan. Spanish is a second language for both Laurie and Isabel. To say their first meeting was awkward is an understatement.
No se puede haber hijos, mi y mi esposa. Entonces, it means the world to me that I have yours.
Both Laurie and I thought it was important that Diego have a connection to his birthplace and thought it was a real stroke of luck to find his birth mother and establish a relationship with her. We wondered about Diego's birth father. Isabel insisted that all 3 of her children had the same father, but that he was an unreliable, angry drunk. She said she had told him Diego had been stillborn and he would beat her if he found out Diego was living with us. At the time, we had no reason to doubt her.
What do you call this?
It's corn.
We try to get back to Guatemala as often as we can, which works out to every 3 to 5 years. So in 2002, when Diego was 4, we were back there. His birth mother and big sister Julia were delighted to see him.
Want to go to the restaurant?
I can walk myself.
Oh, okay.
And again in 2005.
Cool.
When we went back in 2005, we learned the terrible news that Julia had died the previous winter. She was just 12 years old when she died.
She had a problem with her stomach and her kidney. Then she died slowly because she doesn't have money to take her to the hospital because the father didn't help. And finally she died. 2 months. She was sick. 2 months. For her, she wished you were here to help Julia.
We heard 2 different stories about her death. Her mother, Isabel, said she had died from complications from an illness. Her 10-year-old brother, Juan, told Diego that their father had kicked her in the stomach because she stole a mango and she had never recovered. We didn't know who or what to believe, but it was really hard to hear, especially for Diego.
You're always going to be my little baby.
I know. What if you die?
Even after I die, you'll be my little baby. I'll always love you.
I'll always love you. I'll always be my dad.
You'll always be my ACKWARD.
I was relieved to get back to Minnesota after this trip. Diego got back into his routine, soccer in the summer, hockey in the winter, and hanging out with his friends at elementary school. But Diego's family in Guatemala was never far from our minds. In 2008, we had an opportunity to go back to Guatemala. 10-year-old Diego wanted to make a video to show his 5th grade classmates so they could see where he came from and who he was. I offered to help.
No, my name's Diego, but I'm from the Tsutsuhil tribe, so they would call me Atiko.
The video we made from that trip struck a nerve with many people. It's on YouTube called Diego Visits His Birth Family.
Diego, come and meet these people.
It was that trip in 2008 where we accidentally met Diego's birth father's relatives.
She's your aunt. That's her grandmother.
They didn't know about Diego. Isabel had told everyone he had been stillborn.
They thought you were dead because that's what the man said. Because they're related to the man.
The dad.
Who is your biological father. So the man told, maybe because Isabel told him, because she couldn't take care of you and she didn't want anybody to be angry with her. So she just said the baby, and she gave you up right away the day after you were born. So I think she told the family that you were dead.
This was another hard thing for him to hear. 3 years earlier, he was told his sister died at the hands of an abusive father, and now he finds out his birth mother told his relatives that he had been born dead. All of our trips to Guatemala have been both beautiful and brutal. But the hardest thing, the thing that would change all of our lives, was yet to come. And it wouldn't happen in Guatemala. It would happen back in Minnesota, when Diego turned 12.